All right, today we're going to start talking about rocks and the rock cycle. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is a rock? A rock is a naturally occurring solid mixture of one or more minerals and organic matter. Okay, so it's a solid mixture of minerals and organic matter. The rock cycle is, you'll see in this image on the right here, is a series of processes in which a rock forms, changes from one type to another, is destroyed, and forms again by geological processes. Okay? And we'll learn more about how this goes, but you'll see that a lot of rock will start off as magma coming out of the volcano. It will crystallize into igneous rock, and then through erosion, deposition, and lithification, it will become sedimentary rock. Then it will start to get crushed and metamorphosized through pressure into metamorphic rock. And then again, through erosion, deposition, and lithification, it goes back into sedimentary rock, which then, through plate tectonics, which we'll learn later, becomes magma again. The big point we want to get from this is that it's a cycle, okay? And that the major players are magma, igneous rock, sedimentary rock, and metamorphic rock. You'll learn these little processes, how they change from one to another, as we move through the rock cycle. If you want to learn more about the rock cycle now, go back to the original slideshow for this in the assignment and click More, and it will take you to the Google site for the rock cycle. Anytime you see where it says More in these slideshows, you can go to the original slideshow, click More, and it will take you to the Google results for that term. All right, let's move on. Weathering. You'll see in this picture that this rock has little pock marks, and you can almost see where the water has settled and carved this stone a little bit. Weathering is the process in which rock is broken down into sediment. Weathering can happen through water, wind, ice, and gravity. Erosion is another way in which rocks are changed from one form to another, and that's a process by which sediment is removed from its source. So this is all like dirt and rock that has been piled up or put there through different forces that we'll talk about. Could have been deposited by an old river, or by an old ocean, or by wind. Now erosion is when this sediment is removed from its source. So see, this used to be a nice little hill, but through erosion, this sediment was removed, and in this case, looks like a creek, removed this sediment and created this hole in the little hillside. That's erosion. Deposition is kind of the opposite, where that's where the sediment is dropped and comes to a rest. So this river, this creek, has deposited these little pebbles, these river rocks, into this bank here, and that's deposition. The creek has deposited this sediment, and here it comes to a rest. This could have happened by wind blowing it or by other forces, but in this case it was this creek that deposited the sediment. That's what deposition is when this stuff is moved and it comes to a rest wherever it's placed. So there's three types of rock. We kind of mentioned it a little bit briefly. There's sedimentary, metamorphic over here, and igneous over here. These are three different stages of rock, right? We think of rock as just being rock. It never changes. But in reality, rock is always changing. It's just very slowly usually. But rock is always changing in this cycle. Sedimentary is rock that forms when sediments are compacted and cemented together. So if you've ever seen like a bag of cement is a good example where it's all kind of powdery, and then you add water and it starts to have this process where it becomes basically rock. That has become now sedimentary rock. You'll see these lines Sedimentary rock actually records history in its formations. We'll learn later that these lines can tell us a lot about history. Common features, there's strata, so it's in layers. Okay, that's common feature for sedimentary rock is it happens in layers. You'll see layers in it. There'll be ripple marks from like water having deposited it there. There'll also be fossils. You might find a bone or an old shell in sedimentary rock. There's different types of sedimentary rock. Clastic is made up of fragments of other rocks and minerals. Like you can see, like this is one sedimentary rock piece right here, but you'll see that there's a bunch of other rocks and minerals mixed in, and you can see, you know, like this is one rock and it's cemented into with these other little small pieces of grain or sand or something, and it's all cemented. Conglomerate is coarse grain like this. Coarse means big. Sandstone is medium grain, where you can kind of like see the grains in there, but they're not like big chunks like this piece here. Siltstone is really fine, so you can barely see the little grains of sand or dirt that make up that type of sedimentary rock. There's chemical, which is formed from solutions of water and minerals. There's high concentrations of minerals that crystallize out of the solution. Limestone is an example of a sedimentary rock that occurs through a chemical process. Another way that sedimentary rock can form is organic. When organisms die, their shells collect on the ocean floor, eventually becoming rock. And we can see examples of that when we see pictures of rock where it's like mostly shell. And we'll look at a picture later in the unit of the White Cliffs of Dover. These tall white cliffs, and that's all basically old organisms that died and created that white stone. Metamorphic. So these are rocks that form when the texture and composition of a pre-existing rock changes due to heat and pressure. So if you can imagine, see these lines? If they used to be straight, right? Or they used to be straight, or maybe at an angle or something, but through intense pressure and heat over time, those straight lines start to get bent and curved, so that becomes metamorphic rock. It has changed its shape because of those that pressure or the heat. Types of metamorphic rock. Foliated, the texture of metamorphic rock where the minerals are aligned like the pages of a book, kind of like this. Non-foliated, the texture of metamorphic rock where the minerals show no alignment. So it could be just like, instead of, non-foliated would be like you can't really see these lines. Foliated, you can see these lines. It's like a book. Igneous, that's rock that forms from the cooling of magma. So this is kind of like lava right here. It's magma. And it's intensely hot, right? You can see the heat. It would melt stuff in its way. But as it cools, it becomes rock. And that's what igneous rock is. It's basically old magma, old lava. Intrusive is forms when magma cools and solidifies beneath the Earth's surface. You don't really see this happen. It happens beneath the Earth's surface, but this is the process. Extrusive is when the lava comes out onto the surface of the Earth, and you can see it, right? You can see it flowing, and then it cools, and it becomes igneous rock on the Earth's surface. Rock classification. Rocks can be classified further by looking at two important criteria. Composition, which is like what is inside of it, and texture, what does it feel like? Right? What does it look like? Composition, the chemical makeup of a rock, describes either the minerals or other materials in the rock. So if we were to break this down into the minerals inside of it, we would be looking at the composition. So we could say, oh, it's high in iron or other minerals. That would be talking about the composition. Texture, the size, shape, and positions of the grains that make up a rock. So if you were to feel this with your hand, right, you'd feel like the shape and the texture changing, right? It's kind of rough. In that case, you're talking about the texture of that rock. And these are just ways for us to help classify rocks, put them in categories. That's it for this slideshow. That's a lot of information. Go back and look at the original slideshow. Click on the links when you want more information. This is just the start, okay? If this is new for you and you feel like it's a lot of information, great, because really that's what it is. Our job over the next several days is to break each of these topics down, get more familiar with it. Good luck.